we know you're working with Sway, and
yes,
anyone in the game knows Sway is one of the greatest writers.
Of course.
When it comes to the pen game,
yes,
he's an animal.
Yes.
Did he ever help you write any lyrics?
He's helped me. Yes.
I love that.
Of course.
I love that.
Of course.
That's
like,
brilliant,
I'm not
bro.
gonna be like, it's all me. Like, of course, he's helped me.
You could have lied.
I could have lied, yeah.
I probably would have lied.
I know what you're thinking. Oh, Trap Lord Ross, KSI's not a real rapper. What do you know about the hip-hop culture? You're such a culture vulture. I'm going to start a thread on Kanye till they're exposing you. Well, tell you what, open your mind up just for a moment, because KSI's journey from talentless wannabe rapper to just regular wannabe rapper is a fascinating journey walked in the shadow of one of the most legendary British rappers that has ever touched mic in this country. KSI is one of many young media moguls who've managed to turn shrieking on YouTube into a multi-million-pound business. His particular breed of comedy started out in the form of obnoxious videos where he pretty much just shouted at the screen playing FIFA. But before long, KSI's channel evolved into a media empire that spanned hip-hop, boxing, and most rappers' favourite pastime, disrespecting women. Regardless of what you think of KSI, his YouTube success is definitely something to be admired, and the riches that he gained from doing YouTube videos pretty much allow him to stunt like a rapper without having recorded a single bar. Hell, KSI's done everything a good rapper does. He's ruined perfectly good Lamborghinis with terrible paint jobs. He bought a swanky London penthouse and nearly fell off the roof.
This is London, as you can see. It's a madness, right? Holy fucking shit. I'm afraid of heights, so I don't know why the fuck I'm doing this. But we're doing this anyway, oh my god!
And of course this year he spent/wasted £500,000 on an iced out chain. But what's the point of all this shameless spending on tasteless things if you don't have the bars to back it up? I mean, let's not get it twisted. If you are an old school die-hard hip hop head, KSI's rapping was never for you. His music career basically started its life just making banter raps about footballers on his YouTube channel. Whilst his initial videos didn't really have any value at all for a die-hard hip-hop fan, and his audience of teenage football fans gobbled it up like a girl gobbling up morning after pills after spending the night at Drake's house. KSI kept on grinding and improving, slowly, day by day, developing his own unique style, which was kind of a high-energy shout rap, which he describes as reminiscent of old-school DMX. I mean, you can see the similarities. Both rappers have three-letter capitalized names that seemingly mean nothing. And in many ways, KSI is kind of the YouTube DMX if we lived in a world where instead of being addicted to crack, DMX was just addicted to the smell of his own farts. And no matter how many people told him to stop, no really KSI, please for the love of God, stop, he kept on going. And you can imagine my surprise in 2019 as I was perusing the YouTube trending page. I saw KSI had a trending song with grime legend and the winner of the Brit Award for Hungriest Vegan, JME. And lo and behold, to the surprise of Trap Lord Ross and pretty much any hip-hop fan that's ever been subjected to one of KSI's verses, the song was actually fire. It's been a long journey, and I suppose now I have to follow my pride and my true love of classic hip-hop and admit it may have taken half a decade, but god damn it, KSI can actually rap. But how did this happen? Well, what a lot of people overlooked is that in the very early stages of KSI's rap career, when his music was basically unlistenable, there was one man, a British legend, that truly believed in him and made sure that he fulfilled his potential as a rapper. Now let's jump back to 2011 when KSI first started making rap songs. Along with fellow YouTuber and former Red-Nosed Reindeer Randolph, KSI made the song Heskey Time, which was essentially a poor quality hip hop tune all about footballer Emile Heskey. This was actually part of quite a big wave on YouTube at the time of obnoxious YouTubers basically making these spoof songs about famous footballers. And these videos were raking in the views and money no matter how bad the rap skills actually were. The success of this initial song led to KSI cashing in on the wave and starting an entire series called Footballer Rap Battles.
And we have returned! KSI on the GDBT versus Van Persie! Begin!
This would see him and his mates playing different footballers, making diss tracks and battling each other, which is unusual because usually British Premier League footballers only battle over which position they're playing in tonight's spit roast. But in spite of the tracks not actually living up to true hip-hop standards, KSI and Randolph brought some pretty fun tracks to the scene and really managed to entertain their fan bases. In fact, in many ways, they were able to expertly nail that sweet spot on the Venn diagram of people that like amateur rap music and people that like football. So essentially, teenage twats with football team bedspreads. However, after a few years of of making these obnoxious football raps and getting absolutely papered as a result, it was only natural that he'd eventually capture the attention of a bona fide rapper. KSI's first legitimate rap collaboration was the song No Sleep with Tigger the Author and headline act Sway. This was very typical UK rap radio bait featuring a pretty typical beat and basic piano melody. In fact, to me, this track is painfully reminiscent of the 2013 pop chart. It's got Professor Green, Tiny Temper and rudimental fingerprints all over it, and just a few seconds of even listening to this tune just takes me right back to those good old days, wearing a pink polo shirt and drunkenly snogging a WKD breathed girl in Oceania. Those were the days. Anyway, No Sleep was a complete shocker because KSI touched mic and god damn it, he actually spat a hot verse. You could tell he was taking things a lot more seriously than he had in his spoof football songs. However, this was an even bigger finesse for the headline artist of this track, Sway, as technically this was Sway's song and it lived on the Wake Up EP that Sway had released around this time, but this song itself ended up getting dropped on KSI's enormous YouTube channel, and obviously racking up serious views. Now I gotta admit, when I saw this video, I was completely blown away for multiple reasons. Not just because I'd actually heard KSI do a listenable verse for the first time ever, but also because I'd been a huge fan of Sway through my entire childhood. If anything, I was kind of upset that he basically just went missing for a few years right at the peak of his popularity. And I always had an inkling when I first heard that song with KSI and Sway that it's probably quite likely that his legion of teenage football fans might have absolutely no idea who Sway was. So, if you're a hip hop fan or a KSI fan and you don't know who Sway DeSaffo is, then please let me educate you. We need to talk about Sway, and I'm not talking about Sway Calloway, famous for hosting the morning show and not having the answers.
You ain't got the answers, man!
I'm talking about British rap royalty, Sway DeSaffo. I know that maybe 99% of you watching this, if you're American, if you're too young to remember, you probably don't know who the hell Sway DeSaffo is, and it's not your fault. For years at the start of Sway's career, he didn't want to be identified, so he was very well known for wearing a Union Jack bandana to cover his face. And in the UK, this look is still very much a favourite amongst racist troublemakers. The thing about Sway is he was popping before social media, way before Facebook, way before Instagram, way before YouTube, probably even in the early stages of MySpace. After many years of experimenting with music as a teen, Sway started to make waves, initially rapping as part of a collective called One, before dropping his first solo release on My Own. But Sway truly burst onto the rap scene in the UK with his solo mixtape series, This Is My Promo. In fact, for many years, the deluxe 2-disc edition of This Is My Promo was one of my most prized possessions as a child. In fact, I'm still genuinely heartbroken about the fact that when I moved to London, I lost my signed copies of This Is My Promo and This Is My Demo. So if you end up watching this, Sway, I beg you send me some signed CDs. This legendary mixtape from Sway ended up blowing up real quick due to a genius finesse that Sway made whilst working on a street team for a large record label. Whilst running around London delivering copies of songs for other rappers like Jay Quan, who had Tipsy out at the time, he would very slyly slip his own remixes of those songs into the packages he was delivering and made them look like official remixes.
I was working for a street team at the time, and there was a big record out called Tipsy by a guy called Jay Quan.
Yeah.
And because I was working at a record label at the time, I had the mailing list of all of the main DJs. So I would print up my version as an official alternate version. So I'd be like, oh, they didn't even know that I was Sway a lot of the time. When I deliver the records, I'd be like, guys, I know you got Tipsy, but I've just been sent from the label to give you lot this version. You know what I mean? You've got to play it back to back. You know what I mean? And if you play it back to back, we'll make sure you get the new Ashanti exclusive. Like, you know, just making up loads. I was lying, basically. You know what I mean? And I'll be getting played on mainstream radio.
And if you haven't heard any of Sway's stuff, I would definitely recommend that you go back and check out the This Is My Promo series. That mixtape included his first breakout single, Follow Fashion, a very self-aware tribute to young, clout-chasing fashionistas that go broke trying to flex on people with their clothes. And of course, the classic Fleetwood Mac sampling, Up Your Speed, blew up in the UK and became a complete boy racer anthem for all of its shout-outs to different regional areas in the UK and its slick bars about speeding around the UK roads. But another important part of Sway's success around this time was the fact that he was essentially completely independent. And by the time that he dropped his This Is My Promo project, he started doing crazy numbers, but was literally delivering copies of the CD himself by hand to record shops.
Sometimes hours later, and say, yo, we've run out. There was these small numbers, like 20 CDs. We've just sold them all. And I'll be like, all right, cool, I'll come back. Give them more. Then 20 CDs turned into 50 CDs, and 50 CDs turned to 100 CDs. And now we're having boxes of CDs. Meanwhile, all this time, I didn't know who was buying them.
And from This Is My Promo Volume 1 and 2, Sway in 2005 actually managed to win a MOBO award for the best hip-hop act, beating out 50 Cent and The Game, despite the fact that he didn't actually have a proper album out, or the backing of any major label or even distributor. And Sway even triumphantly returned to the MOBOs the next year to perform his song Up Your Speed. So I just want to take a quick moment to just point out that every Stormzy or Skepta dick rider that want to say, oh, it's so groundbreaking, they're performing at the MOBOs, they're performing at the Brits. Listen, Sway was performing Up Your Speed in 2006 at the MOBOs, and he was beating 50 Cent and the Game Tour Awards in 2005. People like Skepta and Stormzy, they're groundbreaking in some ways, but then in other ways, that ground was broken wide open 10 years ago, and the man that did it was called Sway. Kanye brought out Skepta and Stormzy at the Brit Awards. Why wasn't he bringing out Sway? Anyway, after his MOBO win, Sway did not let up for a minute and he moved on to his first full album release, This Is My Demo. And unusually, Sway turned down many major label opportunities and continued to drop this album completely independently. This featured a handful of those original hit tracks from This Is My Promo, as well as his big hit single Little Derek, which ended up hitting the top 40 in the UK, a massive achievement for an independent rapper way back in the noughties. And this album is an absolute classic, but don't just take my word for it, The Independent gave it 5 out of 5, saying that it was one of the best rap albums ever. And it wasn't just in the UK, this album went down very well internationally, winning Sway a 2006 BET Award for the Best International Act. And back in the UK, he ended up being a runner-up for the most poisonous music award in music, the Mercury Awards.
I've won like 9 major awards, you know what I mean? I won an award, I was the first ever rapper in the UK to win an award of mixtapes. You know what I mean? I sold so many mixtapes, I was outselling people's albums. You know what I mean? So I won a big award, a MOBO award, beating off 50 Cent in the Game in the UK. You know what I mean? And also, I won a BET Hip Hop Award for Best International Artist out here in the States. And I'm the first UK artist to pick up a BET.
Now, the huge acclaim for This Is My Demo ended up catching the attention of the likes of Pharrell Williams and the brightest man in Africa, Akon, who ended up signing Sway and his Decipher Productions to his own label, Convict Music. Now, the first project that Sway dropped under Convict Music was his follow-up album, The Signature LP. This postage-themed album would become a trope of many of Sway's releases in the following years, most likely born from his postman persona that he developed after spending so many years independently driving around in a van and delivering his CDs to record shops. The Signature LP included the big singles Saturday Night Hustle with Lamar, F Your Ex, and the international club anthem alongside Akon, Silver and Gold. Though I've got to admit, my favourite track from the Signature LP is the UK exclusive bonus track, Man of the Match. This is a hard-hitting football fan anthem that almost sounds like it could have been written for KSI himself. But unfortunately, the following years after this would be pretty tough for Sway. After the release of his next 2 mixtape series, The Delivery, he was diagnosed with a treatable form of cancer, Hodgkin's lymphoma, which led to him taking a few years out of the music industry completely to recover and get his health back up to scratch. Fortunately, Sway did manage to pull through and go into remission, and whilst he's never really spoken publicly about this tough time for him, he did address it in his 2015 track The Sea, which I gotta say is worth a listen and it is hella emotional. But by 2011, Sway had beaten the shit out of cancer and he was ready to start dropping music again. And he came back with the absolute classic, Still Speeding, alongside British legend Kano. This track hit number 19 on the UK singles chart, a big move for Sway, becoming his first top 20 single, and it also featured an American version of the track which had Lupe Fiasco on it. But this wasn't the only Lupe Fiasco that Sway had in stock, and Sway actually ended up becoming the only other rapper to be featured on Lupe Fiasco's #1 album, Lasers.
For me, like, I've had a lot of good breakthroughs in America, like in terms of collaborative, but it was only until last year being on Lupe's album,
That's right.
Lasers, it went to #1 in the Billboard, and I was the only rap feature on the album when I realised, you know what, there's really scope for me to do stuff out here.
And Sway and Lupe even popped up together on Radio 1 Extra to do an absolutely killer freestyle over Kanye West Monster, which is criminally underrated to this day and definitely deserves a watch. Sway followed up his success with Still Speedin' with the track Level Up in 2012. This song ended up doing even better in the charts and landing Sway his first top 10 hit, coming in at number 8. But even more interestingly, the track featured a Decipher Boy Better Know remix featuring, of course, JME. But interestingly, the track also featured KSI shouting on the intro and outro like a young DJ Khaled. To me, just as a fan, this is kind of KSI's first little moment of dipping his toes into the real music industry with serious hip-hop artists. And you can kind of tell from his appearance, he's sort of dabbling into getting into the music game, but he just comes across as one of those rappers that's just hyping himself up for the intro but ends up never really dropping a bar.
What? Turn my headphones up.
Now let's not forget that around this time in 2012, KSI was still dropping these kind of obnoxious football tracks, including another track with Randolph called Sweaty Goals, but it was around this time that Sway decided to get on his mogul shit and start signing acts to his Decipher label. He started out with a London-based singer who's best known for his collaborations with Winnie the Pooh, Tigger the Author.
Sway popped in the studio and he liked my stuff. And then before I know it, I'm doing songs with him and Kano.
The first track that they jumped on together was the tune Still, Sway and Kane, an absolutely fire Still Dre remix featuring Sway and Kano from Still Speeding. Definitely check that one out. But for Sway's next major release, he enlisted the help of KSI, who actually came through and dropped a genuine verse alongside Tigger the Author. Now, KSI has actually said on many occasions that it was around this time that he really started to take music seriously, and Sway was the man that encouraged him to do this and gave him the confidence to really try and take his career as a rapper to the next level. And I've got to say, it felt like a real watershed moment where KSI was actually trying to be a rapper rather than just messing around on his channel taking the piss. And honestly, Sway's influence shows. That collaboration would of course end up being the banger No Sleep, which ended up on Sway's EP called Wake Up, which also features vocals from an uncredited young Ed Sheeran. So as you already know, this was technically Sway's track, but ended up getting released on KSI's channel. And boy howdy, did that help them get some numbers. It went on to get millions of views and even landed a slot in the UK singles chart at number 44. Hey KSI, it's not bad for your first actual effort at rapping. But by 2014, there was no sign of Sway and KSI giving up on things, and they came through with the follow-up to that track, Mac 10 Flow. Once again, genuinely very good. And at this point, to everybody's surprise and, to be honest, horror, KSI is starting to sound like a real rapper. You should be afraid. But it wasn't a fluke, and KSI continued to credit Sway as taking him to that next level and really viewing him as a father figure when it came to the rap game.
You need someone to master it. You need someone to...
So that's why Sway helps me out with all of that.
Yeah.
And for real, KSI was not kidding about taking his rap career to the next level, and it was in 2015 that he released his biggest song ever. Alongside legendary grime sheller P Money, KSI dropped the classic track Lamborghini. Lamborghini smashed straight into the UK singles chart at number 30 and managed to stick around for 3 weeks. Again, not bad for a YouTube comedy rap. This was also great news for P Money. In fact, this track exposed him to so many young boys that he even considered changing his name to P Doe.
How did the collab with KSI come about?
Brethren thing, really. Like, we've been talking for a while, since a little while ago, and then he was talking about he wants to do music and that, and I just said to him, look, just go for it, innit? And then he just said, oh, do you want to jump on this tune? And I said, yeah, like, you know what I mean? We just done it, really. We didn't even think it was gonna do what it did. Like, we didn't plan for that. We just planned to do a tune because he wanted to do music.
KSI followed up Lamborghini with a song and EP of the same name, Keep Up. This track once again featured regular KSI collaborator, British grime legend, and Skepta's very own Deji, JME. And that EP also featured the track Smoke and Mirrors with Tigger the Author, who'd recently changed his name to Tiggs the Author, so not to offend the Tiger community. And for the record, it also featured a pretty sick Lamborghini remix with a verse from Big Man Sway himself. And once again, to the disappointment of hip-hop purists everywhere, KSI's Keep Up EP managed to come in at number 19 on the US Billboard chart and number 13 on the UK album chart. Now at this point, KSI is a pretty certified rapper and he's attracting good collaborations, and he managed to follow that one up with his EP Jump Around and the title track of the same name, which featured a classic sample from that Cypress Hill tune of the same name, and of course amateur sign language interpreter Waka Flocka Flame. Hey, who'da thunk it? From footballer rap battles and sweaty goals to collaborations with Waka Flocka Flame. It's hard to deny that KSI over the years has become a legitimate contender in the rap game. Whether or not you're part of his core audience, you can't deny that the guy does drop hits, he gets on Billboard, and he gets the job done alongside some serious names who command respect in the rap game. Hey, a lot of people still write him off as just a YouTuber, but I don't know. But hey, if you go and listen to his New Age album with Randolph, you know, it's not all good, but it's undeniable. Some of those tracks go hard. Some of those verses are really good. Even if you want to call it a hit and miss album, hey, every now and then KSI makes a hit. I've got no doubt that in the next few years, KSI is going to drop a song that's going to end up being a big chart-topping hit. You mark my words. But when that happens, let's never forget, no matter what the views, no matter what the followers, no matter what the sales, what the plaques are, there is one man who put him there, Sway DeSappho, and he should never be forgotten. Because he is a British rap legend and he paved the way for everybody that is doing it big now. So, big man Sway, I salute you, man. Thanks for making it all possible. Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, go and check out my recent video on all the companies that Jay-Z finessed on his road to $1 billion. Hope you enjoyed that. Shout out KSI, shout out Sway, shout out the Sidemen. Thanks again for watching, and peace out.